Thanks, Scott. Scott's quite the hype man here, so as he said, no pressure. So, hello, thanks for attending. All right, so I think if I'm doing this, I can't see my notes, so I'm going to have to vamp, which is awesome. Winging it. So, I'm going to talk today about our flow migration journey, and I thought before I do that, I should start with talking about who we are. So, you've seen the potatoes floating around, you've seen the swag. Who are we? We're the Simplot company. Simplot, I like to call the biggest company that you've never heard of, and a few of you I've probably introduced myself to, so sorry if you have to hear the same joke over and over, but if you have ever eaten a McDonald's French fry, then you have us to thank for that. At least 1 in 3 French fries is what we say. So yes, a company from Idaho that does potatoes. Perfect. Who knew, right? We have, our big little company, I think we have 13,000 employees around the world. We are in 14 different countries. We're all over North and South America and Asia Pacific. October of last year, I got to spend an entire month in our Melbourne, Australia office, and it was amazing. That has absolutely nothing to do with this presentation, but I'm still really excited to talk about that trip, so talk to me about my Australia trip. So, speaking of Salesforce, though, we have about 750 Salesforce users, not including our Experience Cloud folks. We support 5 business units, and like I said, spread all over the country, and we do that with a team of 10 full-time folks, and then we have a contract workforce that will flex according to the needs, the business projects at the time. So our onshore team or our offshore folks tend to be the architects and developers as a project needs them, and then our onshore folks are analysts, admins, and then my personal favorite, the admin-eleper. So do we have any admin-elepers in the room? Yes, the unsung heroes, right? Are most folks here admins, devs, a little bit of both? Yeah, very good. Identifies as other, check the other box. So our journey here, I'm going to kind of break down the 5 W's to start off with, and again, we're going to have to bear with me as I try to remember all of my points here. So who? I just introduced you to the team. What is migrating every piece of automation to flows? When was in early 22, late 21, early 22, where, okay, I'm just kind of making up W's at this point, but mostly we're in Boise, Idaho, and then our offshore team is based in Bangalore. And the why is, well, because Salesforce told us to, right? Salesforce said that we are going to end-of-life workflows and process builders, and so we said, okay, well, let's do this. Also, I think my previous slide had a note that said, at the time that we did this, we were kind of at a lull, that the business projects at that point were kind of slow, so we said this is our perfect time to move our automation. We had done an org merge in autumn of 2021, so all those moving pieces I just mentioned, I'm very proud to say, is one org. And so we moved our SAPL team, our SAPL org that was separate, I'm sorry, using business lingo, our Australian org, we moved to all one single org, and so when we did that, we took a lot of existing automation and we just said, we'll deal with it later. And then later came a lot sooner than we thought with that announcement that the workflows and the process builders were going away. So, who, what, when, where, why? Okay, the real question is how? How the heck are we going to do this, right? And so what we did, one thing that we don't do well at Simplot is we don't really do Agile very well, but what we can do, pun intended, is Kanban. So we Kanban, and we did Kanban. My notes are hidden here for exact numbers, but I think we did 38 different evaluation stories just to evaluate what's existing, and then we spun off children's stories of those to actually do the work to translate those into flows. We identified the product owners for all of our different business units, and then we worked with them to say, are you even still using this? And the big question, the revealing question was, does this automation that's been in place for 7 years, does this actually do what you think it does? We took a lot of entry criteria for a process builder or a workflow, put it into a query editor, and would run that and say, huh, that's always going to return 0 rows. And yeah, sadly, a lot. That was, it was a good effort because it really helped us clean up. So we started with the evaluation, we spun off the work then to do the migration, and we tried to organize that work by object. Also, we went next by level of effort and tried to go after low-hanging fruit, but what we quickly learned is that there is a sequence to how this works. So if I'm in the A's, because A is at the start of the alphabet, and I am looking at an account process builder, but it has a downstream effect to an opportunity process, then opportunity wasn't going to be handled until 2 months from now, because that's way down in the O's, right? So like maybe this piece of automation is going to have to remain a process builder until we get to the O's, and then we can move them all together. And so that this required a lot of flexibility to go with the flow. Ooh, look at me. Okay, and so I think that the final count was around 500 pieces of automation that we moved out of Process Builder, workflow. We also evaluated Apex. We tried to move everything we could that could be a flow, we made into a flow. And so we just put the bow on a CPQ implementation. So if we don't talk about that, and we don't talk about that, then before that happened, we were down to 2 Apex triggers on all of the objects in our org. Everything else was a flow. And I'll speak a little bit more to the CPQ implementation that we do not discuss. But we also had to look at existing flows, right? We had flows in the org prior to this announcement, so we had to make those meet this framework that we were developing for all of our objects. And then document. We built out knowledge articles. We use Salesforce knowledge articles. We link to the article in the description of the flow, and then we link back to the flow in the knowledge article, so we have a nice cyclical process here. And then we update the knowledge article if changes need to be made to the flow, so that when you're looking at like the flow description in your flow viewer, it's not super messy with a million notes. That's all contained within the knowledge base. And the flows look a little cleaner. And also sometimes you have to delete previous versions of flows, right? And so that keeps it documented elsewhere. So for as long as I've been in the ecosystem, there has been the debate of, is it one flow per object? When I joined, it was one process builder per object, and I still have nightmares of the PBM prefix is our process builder master, and so it would be a monstrosity of a process builder that did everything for every business unit, and trying to navigate it, troubleshoot it, change it, God forbid, was awful. And so we took that lesson learned as we approached how are we going to build out these flows. And so this spider web here kind of shows that we did not end on the one flow per object side of the house. We broke out our flows by business unit, and then further, those are broken out because of how flows work, right? The before and after save events, the quick actions and related records, I think is the Salesforce parlance. So our initial flow has no entry criteria. It's just record triggered. It then comes in and goes through what we call a master kill switch, which is a custom setting that can toggle a flow off and on. And so if I'm doing a bulk import or something that I don't want these flows to run at the moment, I can toggle them off temporarily, do my import, and then toggle the flow back on. So a record trigger flow is triggered by a record change. It goes through that kill switch, and then it evaluates the record type for the different business units. And so at the time, that was the prevailing wisdom. That was the recommended path. We're starting to analyze now, like, do we want to maybe start building more criteria into our flows as we know this is going to be just for this food or for this business unit. So maybe we do put that in the entry criteria. So as with everything, it's an ongoing process, right? So I'm going to go through what we thought went well. And again, I'm really proud of that knowledge base that we've built. It's still very much in its infancy, but I really think that was a great way to use the tools we have and get that documented. And I'm one of the folks on the team that does code review, so it's really nice for me to have a process that I get to enforce and say, nope, you didn't update this, did you? Or where's the link to this? And so I love having that defined and readily accessible. Let's see. I spoke about the kill switch, and then the naming conventions also. When you pull up your list of flows and you want to know what the heck do these flows do, we standardized our flow names as well. So everything starts with the object name, and then a business unit abbreviation, and then before or after save. And so I very quickly can look at my flows and know what they're doing. And then the invoked flows and scheduled flows have an additional blurb to kind of let you know that these are special. They're special little guys. And so the other thing that went really well, I was going to quote Gabe Landeskog in 22 when the Avs won the Stanley Cup. They were asking him what was the secret to their success. And he said, I don't know, get yourself a Cale Makar. So in a similar vein of super helpful advice here, our offshore team really was key to our success. And so that's the other half of the swag that you see in the room. I'm not getting paid to endorse them, but I did say I would give them a good shout out. So that offshore team really was instrumental to just having people that we could throw at this and just knock it out. It took us 6 months to move all of our automation. And so, we've gotten rid of everything, and we're just the flows. And our CPQ did bring in some more Apex than we had hoped, but because we did that CPQ implementation went that much smoother. I'd like to say 0.0005% smoother, maybe. But if we didn't have process builders, workflows, flows, and a CPQ implementation on top of that, I think it would have been, our 2-year project would have been a 5-year project easily. So that's what went well. Before I fall over from patting myself on the back too hard, what didn't go well, I know this first bullet kind of sounds snarky, but it really is true that we jumped in with both feet as soon as that release readiness announcement hit. I think because, again, the timing was right. We had the people to throw at it, but that meant that we kind of made it up as we went along. Had we waited a little bit longer, then Salesforce came out with the migrator tool. When we evaluated the flow orchestrator, at the time we decided not to use that because there was a price tag attached to it. I don't know if that's still true or not, but we went with the flow trigger explorer option and set our triggers, our flow order that way, and just bypass the orchestrator. So again, had we been patient, maybe we would have come to a different choice. I don't know. The flow tests did not exist at the time, so everything was manually tested and mostly tested in production. I will not pretend like flow tests are the bee's knees now, but they're something, right? They are something that you can use to see, did this break terribly when I made this change? And so, again, lots of bugs because we were testing in prod. So, is this my last slide? It is my last slide. So I don't think I have a back button, and I'm not going to fight it, because the one last thing that I did think that it came to the surface, and so I'm going to use this as a plug to study up for your admin certs. And remember what you studied. Again, I'm not getting paid for this endorsement either, but we learned that whole order of execution thing, yeah, that's real. And when you replace a process builder with a flow, especially a before save flow, well, that hits differently in your save execution. And so validation rules were hitting differently than they did for the same update that the process builder was doing. Well, now there's a validation rule in the middle of it. So that unpaid plug to study up for your certs and actually remember what you did. I will wrap it up there. But thank you so much for your patience with our technical difficulties. And if you have any questions, I think we might have a minute.
amazing, right? And after this, we're going to be having lunch.
Yay.
Yeah, so-
Yeah.
Oh, is there time for questions?
Yes.
2 questions. I think you said there were 500 automations. I'm curious how many you ended up migrating and how many you abandoned.
So 500 was what we ended up keeping. We definitely abandoned quite a few. And I wish we would have been better about documenting as we went, because it would be really good to, further pat ourselves on the back.
And I imagine probably not because you have such a big offshore team, but did you end up using a flow migration tool or building them from scratch?
Just from scratch, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, enjoy lunch, guys.